Good day, my name is Bluesuit and today I'll be going over my review of the early access Norse-inspired base building RTS city builder known as Frozenheim. In Frozenheim, you lead a fledgling village of Vikings through a medieval age of seafaring, war, and mysticism. Enemies abound on all sides as you'll need to balance building a functioning society with providing your homeland with defenses strong enough to repel enemy invaders and conquer fellow Viking tribes. Frozenheim attempts to merge the formulas of classic RTSs like Command and Conquer with modern real-time city management, and while it does falter in a few areas that we'll get into, it does present a unique experience that fans of all things Norse mythology are going to have a lot of fun with, even through its flaws. There is an RTS story in Frozenheim that not only acts as an elongated tutorial, but also tells the tale of a band of Vikings betrayed by their comrades and who fight and survive to rise up as a large conquering people. It's not a bad story in its content, but really suffers in its delivery. Currently, you'll just read some text and get a mini quest that leads you to your next bit of text, with the occasional cutscene holding it all together. Right now, the story will go mostly unnoticed and unplayed due to the fact that the story isn't enough to hold players' attention and the game isn't complicated enough to warrant such a long tutorial. What players will end up spending the majority of their time in isn't all that different than the main game, but without the story, and that's the single player and multiplayer matches. Now, unfortunately, as this is a pre-release review, I really can't speak on the quality or connectivity of the multiplayer matches because nobody really owns the game yet, so there isn't anybody to play with. But in solo, you can either select new game or jump right into a quick match against the computer or skirmish to create player versus AI matches with up to 3 other computers across 3 different maps. Once a match begins, you're given your main building called your Jarl's Homestead. You only get one of these, and if it falls, it's game over. Having the entire match rest on whether or not you can keep this one building standing has definitely led to some balance issues though. For starters, there doesn't seem to be a way to repair buildings at all. So if an enemy builds units before you do and is able to launch even a mediocre assault on your town, they can just Zerg rush your base and do considerable damage. It doesn't even matter if you have other units or buildings in play. Once your Jarl's Homestead falls, it's game over. There are a myriad of ways, however, to defend your Viking villa, not only in the handful or so available units in the game, but also with defensive structures called watchtowers. These, like all other buildings, can't be repaired, but offer tremendous firepower, especially against the noticeably unintelligent AI. There are a myriad of resources that you'll need to manage as Jarl, from wood and food to iron and animal hides, but the most important of these is managing your actual people. Most buildings in the game will require you to employ your villagers in order for the building to produce. You need lumberjacks to work in your woodcutter's hut, miners to work in your collector's guild, and so on. Where it gets challenging to manage is that building your army also requires bodies, and oftentimes you'll need to make a tough decision about who needs to become a fisherman and who needs to become a shield bearer. There are also a few distinct buildings that serve to deepen the gameplay further with solid progression mechanics, and the first is the Elder's Hall. This is essentially your tech tree and will let you emphasize your style of play based on your choices. You can choose from 2 of the available trees that will either enhance your combat capabilities, your production efficiency, or your exploration and mysticism. Each one comes with a handful of bonuses, a defensive building, and an additional combat unit with generally higher stats than the other Vikings. The second distinct building is your weapon shop. It allows you to upgrade your troops. And finally, the shipyard that lets you build all manner of seafaring vessels to carry your warriors onto victory. What really drew me into Frozenheim is also currently its biggest flaw, and that's the actual RTS mechanics. For one, it's a very watered down system, even for early access. There will definitely be more units and more buildings in the final product, but the foundation of the system doesn't allow for a lot of different styles of play, and that's what makes the multiplayer in successful RTSs so good. You need to scout out your enemies, see what they're building, so that you can build units that counter theirs. However, in Frozenheim, because it's a city builder, you need to build every type of building because they're code-dependent. But at the same time, because it's a real-time RTS, the only way to win the game is by defeating the enemy base. There is no cultural or financial victory here, so what this means for the multiplayer is that a meta or even different strategies can't really exist because all players are basically building all the same buildings in every match. This of course can change as the game develops, but it's going to require deep changes to the game's systems that will allow more freedom of choice. This issue, however, won't be that impactful for players who aren't interested in PvP. The second big issue that's worth bringing up are the bugs. Both physical and functional, Frozenheim will have players seeing flying boats, floating buildings, and loads of stuck characters. These aren't reason enough to write off Frozenheim from your wishlist completely, but I would definitely check the patch notes before you pick this one up. Stuck characters is obviously the most obnoxious of the bugs. It's kind of expensive to even create military units, so when you're trudging them through the hills and half of them get stuck in rocks or crevices, or you lose every character that sets foot in a boat because they can't get back out, it's enough to make you want to smash your keyboard. And on the other end, it makes the unintelligent AI seem even more dopey. I built several fishing huts at the edge of my village because I found out that enemies would sail in, they would get helplessly stuck in my fishing huts, and then demolished by my archers. It was actually a really great way to get free boats. Bugs and balance issues in an early access game come with the territory, but in the case of Frozenheim, it's particularly frustrating because there's a really great game under there, we just don't know how many patches it's going to take to emerge. You can pick up Frozenheim when it launches tomorrow, May 20th, 2021 on Steam Early Access for $17. And as is with nearly all early access titles, it's not going to be worth that right out of the gate. It has great graphics and sound design with enough buildings and units to keep players busy for a weekend of Norse-fueled RTS conquering. So I'm valuing Frozenheim at $12, and I hope that developer Paranoid Interactive can quickly move on from these early release troubles so we can start seeing more content soon. I hope you enjoyed this review of Frozenheim. Come see me on Twitch where you can watch our reviews in progress 5 nights a week. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you thought about it. Until next time, peace!